was cracking everybody. So, new video. This video has to do with the Pelican Bay riot again. And this one has to do with the aftermath of the riot. Those of you that have been to prison knows, some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff, a vast majority of the stuff that happens after a riot. But the Pelican Bay riot was a very sticky situation. I'm going to say as much as I feel comfortable with, but I want people to understand what happens, and especially what happened there. For whatever reason, people seem to have an infatuation with Pelican Bay. I mean, I kind of understand, it was for the longest time where the worst of the worst, supposedly in California, were housed. All the heaviest criminals in the state were housed there, in the shoe. So let me just start with this before we even get to the riot. Let's just paint a picture for you so you can understand something. So by 1998, through warfare, there was only raza from Southern California and paisas on A and B facility, which were the main lines. The only raza from Northern California or raza from Fresno that you would see in Pelican Bay since 1998 was in the shoe, right? But both A and B facility, the main lines, had been completely solidified. There was a stranglehold on that yard, on both yards, right? And I remember when it happened that even a lot of the COs were upset because, when a powerful group has less rival factions to pay attention to, the officers always worry that they're going to be targeted next. And it's a game that the CDC plays. They like to make sure that people have enemies to focus on rather than focus on the correctional officers. They're smart. Now, so with that said, let me also explain something. So the riot happened in 2000 on B facility. Okay. On B facility, there's a fence in between every 2 yards. So 1 and 2 block, fence. 3 and 4, fence. 5 and 6, fence. 7 and 8 is the end. So there's an outside fence. 1 and 2 blocks are what's referred to as PSU, which is the shoe program for the guys that are crazy. They can't go to the regular shoe. They'll lose their mind, even worse. So they go to the PSU. So they never come out to B facility. Then you have 3 and 4. And at the time, A section was regular, and then B and C section had EOPs, which were guys on hot medication, guys that were crazy, J-Cats. And 3 and 4 would come out with each other only. Then you had the fence, and then you had 5, 6, 7, and 8. They all could mingle with each other. Well, in the months leading up to the riot, where it was continually tried, there were efforts to try to avoid a war. There were multiple discussions on the easiest way to make sure that there wouldn't be a war. But that's a whole different story. Obviously, it didn't work. One side kept saying they would handle their business and didn't. But during that time, that's a time when people will go ahead and start adjusting their army, supposedly, according to how they feel. 5, 6, 7, 8 was a lot of raza. A lot of blacks, but a lot of raza. 3 and 4, a lot of blacks. Very few raza. I was in 4 building. And what I saw happening was the raza that were Christians were being sent to 3 and 4 building, right? And homies that were, homies were swapping with the Christians and going over to the other to 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I remember I was upset about it. I remember, one of my cousins was in 6 block. A really good friend of mine was also in 6 block. A lot of guys I knew were in 6 block, 7 block. And I remember walking the track, and have no mistake, let's be crystal clear on something. That was a gangster yard. I say probably 90 to 95% of that yard was involved in big things. If you guys know what I mean, they were connected to something in all factions, but especially the raza. The ones that weren't were guys that were coming from reception center, or guys that just wanted to just, hey, there's a riot, I'm there, but other than that, leave me out of that stuff, And I remember I'd be walking the track, and one of these little fucking moves were going on. I heard a couple, youngsters that were barely starting their time running their mouth. They'd be walking the yard, with maybe one of their, and you got to understand, it's a kid, just starting his time, doesn't know nothing about nothing. And he's walking the track with one of his homies that just drove up, and he thinks he's running him down on, the makeup of the yard. And I had happened to hear it a couple times. Oh, that side of the yard right there, that 3 and 4 block where I was at. Oh, that side, that's the Christian side of the yard. And I remember a couple times when I heard it like 2 or 3 times, I was pissed. And I wanted to pull the youngster up, like, who are you talking about? You know what I mean? But I let it go. So anyways, as we were getting closer and closer, where it was pretty much like, yeah, we're going to have to do this. My cousin and my camarada and a few other dudes were like, hey, Holmes, how come you don't move over here with us? We could. And I made it clear, my sentiments. You know what I mean? I told them, because I think that's coward shit. And there were dudes that were happened to be walking by that I knew were planning to move to, 6 or 7 or 8 block. You know what I mean? And I straight out said, I think that's coward shit, ain't? We're so fucking outnumbered over here. If anything, Vato should be trying to come over here. All I know is I'm not leaving. Whatever happens, happens. So, there was something I can't really speak on, but I'm gonna speak around is, on the raza side, it pretty much came to a point where no matter what, there was going to be war. No matter what. And it was because there were some very, very serious internal things going on amongst the raza, to where just, it was not a happy home. Just say that. There were serious people, and they had opposing views about each other. And these are all raza from Southern California. But people felt the handling of certain things regarding the riot were wrong, and things became a lot bigger, to where it was becoming obvious that no matter what, the blacks on the yard were going to suffer, but they were going to suffer due to stuff that they allowed to get out of their hands, Unfortunately, those 5 to 10% of guys that I told you had, came from reception or whatever and didn't really know what time it was, a lot of those dummies, like the ones that were talking about, that side of the yard is Christian, a lot of those little dummies did something a seasoned individual in prison never does. Don't take sides. the internal conflict that was going on was between those that are involved in it. Unfortunately, a lot of these dumb kids saw certain individuals as being something more than what they were, mistaking them apparently with the guys that were in the shoe that deserved that kind of devotion. And so after the riot happened and the dust settled, very few people went to the hole, because you guys got to remember, I just did the last video. The whites and blacks got into it for a little while, and then when that was done, the raza and the blacks got into it. So there was B7, A1, A2, A3, and A4 were all at stakes. They were all holes. That's how much shit was jumping off, to where they had to have that many holes. And they had to open all those up so they could start moving people from B facility over to the holes. I'm going to tell you right now. When they opened yard and I'd say for the B facility guys, there was a pegada every fucking yard because of the internal conflict. And the damn shame was, a lot of them little kids that had the big mouths, the raza, the little kids that, well, that's the Christian side, they wound up having a PC up because the guys they chose sides with were getting hit. And that's why you don't choose sides. If it ain't your business, you keep your damn nose out of it. So I would say, while I was in that SAG during that time, there were easily 50 dudes that either got whacked and pushed out or saw their heroes. When I talked about in my video already before, hero worshiping, how deadly it is. They saw their heroes getting whacked, taken out. And then we're like, damn, you know, they're hitting him and I'm nobody. Nobody was nobody. It was the main line. You know, people will accept responsibilities out there, but they're just like everybody else. You know what I mean? And people that don't know how to do time, don't know nothing about time, and don't know the game, they get it fucked up. And so there was so much turmoil going on. Then we had, you know, like I said, it took a minute for us to go to Ad Say. So they kept us out there for a little while, and there was bed space. They pulled dudes, you know. And I remember this clearly. Again, Pelican Bay B facility was very, very, very militant. Nobody was playing around. You know, the program was tight. You were up early in the morning. Never let the Judas wake you up. They don't start your program. You start your program. And so when guys were getting shipped out, new guys were getting shipped in. And it was a completely different breed of people. You had guys coming in from prisons that were not really up to par. You know, the administration was using it as a way to slide people in that they probably were going to use. There was guys that wanted to sleep in, which was not heard of. There were guys that didn't want to roll their mattresses up. There were actually guys, I remember somebody from my own area came. Not from my city, but just from the area. And I went over there and I was like, hey, homie, you know, if you don't have a strap, let me know. You know, if you don't know how to make one, I'll give you one. And he was like, oh, hey, Holmes, I'm good, Holmes. My hands are vicious. Say, I'll use those. And I was like, we don't do that here. And he's like, oh, no, but and I was like, you know what, Holmes? Do your thing, eh? But understand that if you come out with your hands and you get whacked, you're going to get whacked again in the oil. But that's up to you. Never talk to him again. So you had a different caliber of people coming onto the yard. Then the administration slowly started bringing in raza from Northern California. So the aftermath of that riot was a complete overhauling of the caliber of men that were there and a loss of an entire prison that was in a stranglehold. You had a lot of kids, a lot of youngsters that maybe they were going to be good dudes, supposedly in that world. You know, they were going to be you know, reputable. But a bad decision in the beginning of the career led them to have to take a different route because of hero worship, because they didn't know no better. So there's my spiel. Sorry if it seemed like I talk in riddles sometimes, but I'm not always comfortable with these type of topics. But I think it's important for people to understand. If it's not your business, stay the fuck out of it, in there and out here. Don't worship nobody. Don't worship another man. Hero worship is a motherfucker. But anyways, this is already long enough. I gotta go. Just wanted to make sure that I dropped this, and hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm out. Tell the ones you love that you love them, man.